My kids are doing.
Yes.
My kids are. That's what it is.
Yeah. Yep. That's so nice. Oh, stop, man. Oh, that's stuck. I've been driving on the 20 yard right at it. Cursing out all the. We did have. That's fair. We have 6 hours.
At the time of 6 o'clock, I'd like to go ahead and call the May District Advisory Board order. If you're willing and able, please rise for the allegiance. Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
To approval of the agenda for May. Motion by Wally, second. Second. You in favor to approve the agenda for May, on favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. You. The approval of minutes from April, you guys had a chance to review those. If you're not here, do a motion to approve the minutes from April. I'll make a motion. Second.
Second.
Aye. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Stay. Looks like we've got a full board today. I'd like to kick these off just to show the diversity of District 4. We'll go ahead and go around and make introductions. And there we live in District 4. Alex Garcia, I live right over here, Pawnee and Meridian.
I'm Gordon Barnboss. I live around 119th and Pawnee. Wally Bell, I live at 119th and Pawnee.
Josh Shorter, 151st and Maple.
June Johnson, Mason Kellogg.
Josiah Waukee, University. Gage Hunt, 47th Meridian.
Gentry Teeson, I live just south of Pawnee Prairie Park and just west of the airport.
One. Oh, then we have 2 online. Yeah. Patricia, Stephanie, whenever you guys want to.
Patricia Daly, Delano.
I am Stephanie Yeager at 47th Meridian.
Well, Patricia and.
Did you hear me okay?
Stephanie
I'm
lives in
sorry.
Meridian, and Patricia lives in Delano. My name is Dalton Glasscock. I'm the city councilman for District 4, and I live over at Seneca and Maple near French University.
Right, moving on to staff reports, we'll start with PD. Yeah. Moving on to fire.
Yeah, we're up from Station 12, right over here, facing the library. Italian Ford can make it. There's these meetings going out, West Wichita right now, so he asked me to step in. Not a whole lot to report. I brought some information here because we just got the control burn ban. So now in May, people can have recreational fires if that's something they want, but there's some rules here that people need to follow if they're gonna have those at their house to keep them safe. I mean, the biggest points are they need to be supervised. We show up all the time and there's fires going around. So we have to extinguish those. Also, there's certain distance requirements from the structure. And the main thing too, is a lot of people think they can burn trash and debris, lawn debris, and that's not part of the recreation fire code. So here, I brought these to hand out. I was where you want to set them, but if people want to look at them, or people that like to have fires in their house, their backyard, then they can look at this with the rules just in case you have any questions. There's a few more details here. Other than that, does anyone have any questions for the fire department that I've been here?
Any questions from the board? So you said no to like lawn clippings or leaves.
Yeah, leaves bad. Leaves bad. Yeah, you can't do like lawn cleanup and then burn off.
Oh, that's especially when that's in my house. No, about that.
Yeah, there you go. The main problem with leaves is the smoke.
Yeah.
And people with breathing problems and stuff like that live close, they call it a lot. Obviously trash and plastic, that's often. Leaves are really bad.
Are there any questions from the public? See nothing, none. Thanks, sir. Okay.
I'll set these on the back table in case anyone wants one.
Okay. Come on to library.
I'm Steve Eversley. I'm the branch library manager. Welcome to the library. Screen Free Week taking place May 4th through the 10th this week. This initiative invites families to have fun and connect more by intentionally taking a break away from screens for entertainment for the week. Visit any Wichita Public Library location throughout the week to pick up a Screen Free Week bingo card. I've got some of these back on the table on the enforced wall. Return a completed card by Sunday, May 17th for a chance to win a free Exploration Place Family Pass. Some of the events that they got going on for Screen Free Week, Little Learners and Screens, what parents need to know from 6:30 to 7. Dinner will be provided. Plain place. Register at wichitalibrary.org/events. There is a screening of the Social Dilemma film. Saturday, May 8th, the advanced watch documentary. Our grooming and it's on social media, but tech experts saying the patients. Summer reading program. Unearth the story with your Wichita Public Library. Getting teens. Set personalized reading goals and track your progress. Keep up with reading and free prizes along the way. Beginning Thursday, March 5th. Get started by visiting at help desk and needs. All events. Invited performers. Adults can join in and enter to read any 5 books or complete 5 out of 10 library needs to be entered into the grand prize. Return completed logs beginning Thursday, June 25th, to Thursday, July 3rd. Civic Action Passport. Celebrate ideas of democracy, volunteers, civic minded. Take up a civic action passport in which will look like locations, take simple, meaningful actions for a stronger sense of community and involvement. They're also back there on the back table. Civic action, organized in the 7 categories. Complete 1 activity per category for April 2027. Return for past library or free prize. Some of the Alfred specific information. We circulated 6,525 items this year, or this like in April. We had 3,670 people come through our doors, down by about 12. But our gate counter was down for 3 days during that time, so that's part of 100% sure what the total. Our youth librarian was invited to Kelly White Elementary School to talk about the library and the summer reading program this last month. May 25th, Monday, May 26th. This also starts with summer. We're closed on Sundays until after Labor Day. And spring library will be open. Fiber Arts Group continues to meet every Wednesday, 10 to noon. So if you want to down in the editor. We started our bi-weekly Dungeons and Dragons theme program. Our weekly family story time starts back up on Monday, June 1st. And that's everything I have.
Just got a notification while I was sitting here. Look at them.
Okay.
It's very strategic.
Okay. I did that on purpose.
I'll tell everybody I try to track with how much I saved and I saved $50 this year by checking out the library. It's a really tangible way. So making a competition though. I was hanging out with Josh's daughter and his family. It's read more books this year. So we have. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Great. Thank you.
All right, not to, let's start with our scheduled items. Leadership was on.
Oh, they're not here, but we do have PD online.
Okay. We go back to Daryl, floor is yours.
All right, I think I'm here. Can everyone hear me? Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, we're having issues hearing folks online, so on. Officer Johnson, if you can hear us, I mean, you're good. We can't hear you. But thank you for jumping on, making an attempt. Going on to off agenda items. If there's anyone present that did not request to speak on the public agenda prior to now, so at this time, is anyone here for that? Speak. That there are none, we'll go on to new business. We'll get started with PUD 2026-00007.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Philip Siebenbergen. I'm a planner with the Metropolitan Area Planning Department. Tonight we have PUD 2607. It is an amendment to a plan unit development on the southwest corner of Meridian. And the intended purpose is to increase the maximum building coverage as well as increase the maximum gross floor area in order to construct a couple new additional buildings. The request is to increase the building coverage from 30% to 32% of the site and increase the floor area from 35% to 52%. What's the difference between building coverage and floor area? Obviously, buildings can have multiple floors, so the reason the floor area is increasing at a higher rate is because the buildings are looking to construct are proposed to be 2 stories. So based on the amount of maximum building coverage they can have, they don't have to have as much of an increase to get as if there was a single story, but the fact that they want the second story on their addition, they have to increase the floor area, allowable floor area on the site greater to achieve that second story. If you go to, I think they're here with boards and things that you can look at as well. It was the former site of the Metro Meridian School, and if you're familiar with the property, that school backs up towards the western portion of the site, leaving the portion at the intersection of Maple and Meridian more open space. The plan is to construct the buildings kind of almost in an L-shaped pattern that kind of enclose the space and actually bring the buildings close to the intersection. That being said, they are not changing any of the building setbacks that the PUD established when it was established in 2022. So though they're building additional buildings, they're not necessarily bringing them any closer to the street. They're just making use of the buildable area that's already within the site and not asking for buildings to get closer to the street. Their buildable area is closer to the intersection because the current school building is on the western portion of the property. So the whole fact that they're here is to just increase that building coverage a little bit and then allow for the floor area increase in order to achieve an additional story on those buildings as well. We do have the ability to increase those administratively, but we can only increase them by 10% based on square footage. So that's not going from 30% to 40%. That'd be going from like 1,000 square feet to 1,100 square feet. So these go beyond the ability that would be able to do administratively, which is why they have to go through the amendment process. The context of the area is kind of a mix of commercial and residential. If you're familiar with it, most of the commercial uses are higher density residential and closer to the intersection of Maple and Meridian. As you get farther away, we start getting low density residential uses in a mixture of different zonings from B multifamily and even FF29 multifamily. But most of those higher density zoning districts have single family developments to them. These buildings, like I said, are actually being built closer to the arterial intersection where the commercial and high density units are, because the original school building is actually the one closest to the single family residential. So really nothing's changing closest to the existing dwelling or infill with this space closer to the intersection. The case history on this related to the PUD is that it was established in 2022 and they actually haven't changed it since. So this is actually the first time any time that the change has been requested within this PUD. They're not changing any of the permitted uses. All of those uses are staying the same as what was allowed in the PUD beginning. Again, they're just looking to change the building ability to maximize their buildable space. West Maple and South Meridian are both paved arterial streets with turn lanes at the intersection. There are sidewalks in the vicinity. We find that the request is in conformance with the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan identifies the site as appropriate for commercial uses. This is not intended to be commercial, is my understanding, but at the same time, obviously, commercial anticipates higher intensity uses. So infilling the site with a higher intensity level of development for multifamily is allowable in this category as well. The locational guidelines encourage infill development that maximizes public investment and planned infrastructure improvements. Obviously, water and sewer services are already here. A lot of public infrastructure has already been invested in. It's a fair amount of acreage that is open, and they're looking to put a building on there to maximize public infrastructure in the area. The compatibility guidelines say that neighborhood serving retail and office uses, as well as high density residential uses, can be appropriate along arterial streets and small infill sites near residential uses through the conversion of residential structures with appropriate design features that limit traffic noise, lighting, and summer's impacts of surrounding residential on Friday. And the scale is appropriate. The subject site is located at 2 arterial streets. It would have internal lighting on the site that would have to comply with the zoning code related to height. And we have the majority access points from the arterial streets and not necessarily from the residential streets. This is in the established central area. It is outside the zone line overlay. That's on the east side of Meridian, west side of Meridian. The established central area has a strategy that encourages infill development that is contextual to the environment. We do have some higher density residential. We have apartments there on the east side of Meridian, and again, you have some commercial uses located at the intersection. The site itself being a former school, a lot of those all topics get converted to multifamily or other higher intensity uses anyway. And so that context has already been established, and they're just building off of that. Overall, staff is recommending approval. We don't have any modified language. We feel that their requested increase in building coverage and floor area is appropriate. This has not been the planning commission. It goes a week from Thursday, so it's on May 14th. So it's, you guys are hearing it first this time. I have not heard any public comment on this. I believe we have our applicants agent here as well, if you have any questions for them. Otherwise, I can stand for any questions you got for me.
Start with questions from the board. Is there anything you guys would like to add that wasn't covered for us to know? Good job. Any questions or comments from the board? I think it's awesome what you guys are doing. I follow along what's going on social media. It's really cool to see the existing building be used and transform into what it's going to be. I'm excited to see it. I don't have any issues with this change. Are there any questions or comments from the public? If they're not, bring it back to the board. I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to approve based on the list of conditions. Second. A second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Thank you guys. Moving on to PUD 2026. On to PUD 2026-00008.
This PUD 2608 is a zone change request to establish the Abilene Place land use development. The property is located on the east side of South 167th Street West, just north of Kellogg. The property is currently zoned TF3 two-family residential, which allows for duplex or single-family residential. The purpose of it is to allow for uses within the TF3 district with modified setbacks and development standards. This has been a typical PUD we've seen in several locations around Wichita. The nearest one to this one is located at Kellogg and 135th on the south side, just slightly west of 135th. So there's some duplexes on the south side there. You can read the details in the staff report. I'll kind of do a high level overview of what it allows. you have a typical standard lot, zone TF3, you have a duplex on there with this. PUD allows for flexibility to say, you could take that standard lot, and if somebody wanted to, the developer could develop 2 single-family homes on that lot with 5 feet of separation between them. Instead of having a single-family home on this lot and a single-family home on that lot. A way to describe it is essentially take a duplex and separate it and put 5 feet in between them, and you get 2 smaller single-family homes instead of a connected duplex. The overall density of this development versus what is already allowed within the TF3 district is the same. Because whether or not you have 2 single-family homes at that lot or a duplex on that lot, you're still getting 2 dwelling units per platted lot. So you're actually not increasing any of the density. It just provides flexibility for the developer to possibly meet a niche in the market of somebody not necessarily wanting to have a connected wall with their neighbor. Again, we've seen this in a couple locations. It's actually been fairly standard language for this PUD. It allows for those lots to be split so that those 2 single-family homes can be separately owned. And so the PUD language addresses minimum lot width, minimum lot area, and things like that that would be normally allowed within the standard TF3 district. You would be able to split a lot like that because you would meet the standards of minimum lot width or minimum lot area for a single family home. So it essentially covers all of that. It all has to go through the standard lot split process. At this time, you have to report things appropriately with register of deeds, all of those things in general. This property has some platted setbacks that are the ones here on the north side that just go straight across. Those are platted at 25 feet. They can't change that setback unless they vacate it through a separate process. The ones that the bulk of them there on the southern side of the property, they were already platted at 20 feet, so they were already platted smaller than what TF3 would have allowed. The PUD matches that. The only thing they're changing in terms of setbacks is your interior ones where they allow you to have 5 feet of separation between buildings instead of typical setbacks. So we're dealing more with building separation versus setbacks from property lines. There's no requirements for screening or landscaping because of the uses call for TF3. They don't require screening and landscaping normally, so the PUD didn't require it either. Signage review for the TF3 district, which is no change. We find it's in partial conformance with the comprehensive plan only because it calls for new employment in this area. Way back when, like the property between the subject area and Kellogg is zoned commercially within a community unit plan. It's not developed at this time, but it is zoned for commercial uses. A while back, that commercial zoning was a lot larger, included the subject property. And over the time, market was really dictating more residential uses in the area. So they actually took it out of the community unit plan, downzoned it to TF3 in order for residential development. So the comprehensive plan was calling for new employment, but the market showing that really residential in this area is actually appropriate as well. Land use compatibility guidelines call for screening and buffering between commercial uses and residential. All that stuff is actually taken care of in the community unit plan document within the commercial zoning to the south. This property doesn't have to buffer and screen itself in the commercial. The commercial is required to do the buffering and screening from residential. So there will be these separation of uses, and that compatibility information is required with the commercial property. The overall context of the area, the only properties that are developed at this time, if you go north of the subject area on Lindale Street, duplexes are being built at that location. The commercial property to the south isn't developed. If you go on the west side of 167, it's in the city of Goddard, and it is R1 residential. They're not developed at this time. So it's actually a fair amount of residential zoning in the area already. Staff is recommending approval subject to the text that is in your staff report. We only had some minor text changes that includes the PUD number and changing an or to an and, which is all pretty standard. We haven't heard any public comment regarding this item, and I can stand for any questions.
It's fine. Our agent available. Now we have the agent here. Anything you'd like to add for us?
I don't need to. Philip did a great job. I'll be glad to answer questions if you have.
Any questions or comment from the board?
Separation in extent of the duplexes that are already coming. Okay.
Any questions from the public? I'll bring it back to the board. See any issues with this? Is there a motion?
I make a motion.
I'll second. All right, all in favor? Aye. Aye. All opposed? Staying. Right, you guys. All right, moving on to zoning case 2026-00016.
Zone change 2026-16 is a zone change request from single family residential to GC and general commercial. Property is located on the west side of South Seneca, about halfway between West 50th Street South and West 63rd Street South. It is encompassing a portion of a larger tract. Right now, it is one individual tract of land. The property owner is going through the process of platting the waterway addition. That subdivision plat planning commission on May 14th. The subdivision plat essentially will create 4 platted lots. You see, there's a little notch out of the northeast corner of this. That's lot 1. There's an existing single family home there, so that's lot 1. The subject side would be lot 2, and then the back portion of the property is 2 separate lots, lots 3 and 4. A access drive from South Seneca goes through the property in order to provide access to the rear lots. All of that is getting handled through the subdivision committee here coming up on Thursday, and then for final approval at planning commission, and of course, city council accepts dedications and things like that. So
I have one question. Yes, sir. When you're saying lots behind, is that dividing the black square? Those, okay.
yeah, this is lot 2, the subject side. Lots 3 and 4 will be back here. There's a dividing line somewhere here at some point. It doesn't exist yet because it's going through the planning process, but it's all kind of cohesive. Okay. All that to say, the GC general commercial is one important area in black, even though the larger property is larger. Purpose of it, as I found out after the staff report was approved, so I've got some not necessarily modification to the staff recommendation. Conversation on what is actually going to be appropriate for the applicant for you guys to consider. We want to do something that effectively fall under the classification of construction sales and service. Typically what that goes for is like a Lowe's or a Home Depot, but it also is for like a contractor business. So we have, I think they're doing water softening, correct? So like an HVAC system, hot heating and air, plumbing. If they have their office with their contractor storage building, that falls under construction sales and service as well. That is allowed within limited control, but is also allowed in general commercial. They have a little bit of different rules depending on which zoning classification you're in. That's what we're going to talk about here in just a little bit. But before we do, we can go over some of the standard regular zoning items that would apply to general commercial or limited commercial. You've got compatibility standards, which require at least a minimum 25-foot setback along the north, the west, and the south portion of the south, where it abuts the SF5 zoning on some neighboring properties. Compatibility height standards, and height to 35 feet of the building, based on the SF5 zoning by something to note along the north property line. Near the north property line is an existing 115-foot wide transmission line that's being incorporated into the plat. Transmission lines across the northern portion of this property. So that in and of itself provides a development buffer between any commercial uses on this side, the larger lot single family residential properties to the north. Because it's a transmission line easement, you can't build an easement because you'd be under the transmission lines, and sure everything wouldn't appreciate that. So where do you have single family to the north? You already kind of have an existing buffer from development anyway because of those transmission lines. Landscaping would be the standard from the code. You have to screen the commercial use for the 6 to 8 foot screening fence. You're required to provide landscaping for the official landscape code, which since on the 75th and Arterial Street, you have a landscape streetcar. You would need some buffer trees on the north property line and the west property line. The north property line has an existing tree road with some mature trees that can be used to count towards us and wouldn't necessarily have to plant anything up there. They would just include those trees on their landscape plan. If the properties to the west that they're planting, those are staying single family residential at this time. These standards would apply to that lot 3 to the west of this property. Parking would be per the code for non-residential uses. It's based on the use category. I don't recall off the top of my head what construction service calls for. Essentially, that's what they develop it as. They would have to adhere to provide appropriate number of parking spaces for that use of application. We talked a little bit in detail. Would you go to page 7, please, the zoning map? So, see here, everything in white is single family residential. That's what we're talking about. There's some large lot single family residential to the north. The west is the part of the subject site in a sense where they're planning it all, but it stays single family residential. It's undeveloped. To the south, you've got the red is limited commercial, the purple is limited industrial, and then a little bit of single family to the southwest. On the east side is limited commercial. Those are developed with single family homes. So again, that's commercial zoning. It's not developed commercially. The pink to the northeast is general commercial, also a single family home. What I also want to point out is if you go farther down Seneca, you do have some more general commercial, and the more olive green color is office warehouse, which is also, it's a step between limited commercial and general commercial. So higher intensity commercial zoning districts are not new in this area, especially since this property abuts limited industrial zoning, which is developed with a commercial use, probably similar to a contractor type of business. I believe it's the Cox Farm. Those. So we've got a kind of a hodgepodge of zoning districts. A lot of the commercial districts are being developed potentially at this point, but nothing necessarily is in the way for those sites to be redeveloped at some point in the future. They would have to change to allow for commercial use. Essentially right across the street from this one. So staff took that into consideration as well. Of course, though they are currently residential, we wanted to be appropriate to the context of what uses are there, even if there's zoning districts allow them higher intensity uses. The staff urged reviewing if we were not fully aware of what exactly the use was intended for. General commercial seemed a little higher intensity, even though it's abutting general commercial or limited industrial. Majority of the commercial zoning in this area is limited commercial. It would provide an appropriate buffer between limited industrial on the south and the single family to the north. In conversation with the agent after the staff report was published, understanding the uses that they're looking for, we can have a conversation on what you guys can do. We can't change our staff recommendation. This is what the application stated, and so our recommendation was based on the application. The staff recommendation was to deny general commercial and approve limited commercial instead. But the applicant, and they'll explain it a little bit, but I'll help you understand kind of the ins and outs of the zoning code. Since they want construction, sales, and service, it is allowed in limited commercial, but it has use regulations attached to it in the limited commercial district that essentially pointed to being retail based. The use that they're looking to do is not retail based. They really don't have the front door for retail customers coming in and buying supplies and things like that. It is really more of the, we are a contractor and we are storing our equipment. We're going out and servicing people's water softeners or installing new ones. It would fit the retail-based requirement that is allowed in limited commercial. Those use regulations are not attached to construction, sales, and service in general commercial. It would allow their business to function in general commercial, which it wouldn't be able to do in limited commercial. So the agent is looking for you guys to consider what's called a protective overlay. Those are restrictions on a zoning district. It can't afford opportunities outside of the zoning district. It can only restrict. So essentially what a protective overlay can do is you could recommend approval of general commercial with a protective overlay, limit all of the uses to limited commercial except construction, sales, and service allowed in general commercial. Effectively what that does is it says the zoning more or less would be for limited commercial, but you're allowing the one use that's allowed in general commercial. Does that all make sense? You want me to go over it one more time? So it's a tool that we have in zoning that allows us to tailor the zoning to where our staff recommendation says limited commercial is more appropriate. A protective overlay that limits general commercial to those uses in limited commercial effectively does the same thing, but then you allow them the one use that they need in general commercial. That's what the protective overlay can do. Yes, sir.
So because they're not going to have customers coming in through the front door, that is why you are no longer wanting limited commercial, but you are recommending the approval of general commercial with a protective overlay.
So staff,
Is that
that's
one of the
not,
main things?
right, that's not, technically staff recommendation isn't changing. I'm just explaining what me and the agent have talked about and what their request is going to be.
The process is going to be for approval of general commercial with the protected overlay.
That's my understanding. We're getting some nods from you. Because if you were to approve limited commercial, their business can't function under the limited commercial zoning because of the use regulations that are attached to it.
Gotcha.
They need that use in general commercial, but you can limit the other uses to just those that are allowed in limited commercial. Yes, sir.
Could we send this back to staff for a second look based upon the findings that y'all have talked about?
Not necessarily. So we're already kind of past what staff recommendation is and moving on to planning commission. You guys just get to hear it first. But that's why I wanted to take the opportunity. My personal, I should say professional opinion is a approval of general commercial with the protective overlay that essentially gives them the one use they're looking for, and everything else that functions as limited commercial is an appropriate option at this location. Just because their business can't function in limited commercial the way staff recommendation would be. So it's not necessarily our recommendation, but we'll essentially have the same conversation in front of the planning commission. We got more information after the staff report was published. And then essentially kind of made an evaluation. And that's where we're taking the time to talk through all the details for you guys to make an informed decision. You can accept staff's recommendation still, that is still on the table, but I wanted to give you all the details to help you make an informed decision about what the applicant's request is.
Question I would have, just in general. Let's say that's granted, dad passes council. They keep the property for 10 years. They sell the property. Now the property has an overlay with a basically one use for construction, sales, and services. So two options. They either have to sell to someone that wants construction, sales, and services, or the purchaser of the property would have to come back through the process to get a protective overlay removed to use for other uses.
They would be allowed, if the protective overlay restricts all the uses that limited commercial and allows construction, sales, and service as allowed in general commercial. A future person can do any use in limited commercial without changing the protective overlay. If they wanted a different use that's in GC, that's not in limited commercial, they would come through and amend the protective overlay, which goes through the public hearing process and allows the process to determine whether or not that's an appropriate use.
So subsequent owner could keep it as with the exceptions or just use any use used in limited commercial. Okay. Which is the red.
Yes. Essentially, it's not opening the property for a higher intensity of development more than what the applicant needs. Because that's what they intend to develop at this time. It restricts it to what we feel is a more appropriate zoning classification for the area, being limited commercial, except for the one use that meets the applicant's request.
The applicant also owns parcel 3 of that. Okay.
So all that to say, the staff recommendation is denial of general commercial and approval of LC. However, the applicant's request is approval of GC, general commercial, with the protective overlay as we discussed. So as we get to the point of motion making and things like that, if you need crafting, like that, please let me know to help. So I think I'll stand with that. Overall, the comprehensive plan, the South Wichita Hazel area plan, they don't necessarily call for commercial development, but as we've discussed, just with the existing zoning that's in the area, staff feels that a certain level of commercial development on this property is appropriate. So overall, I've not heard from any surrounding property owners. The applicant and the agent aren't the only ones left in the room, so I think that's also indicative of what the neighbors think at this point. So with that, I can stand for any other questions that you have for me. Otherwise, we can cede the floor to them for them to talk about their business, or if you have any questions for them.
If there's anything you guys would like to add for now. Yes.
Yeah.
My name is Dan Garber with Garber Surveying Service, 2908 North Plum in Hutchinson, 544 West Douglas and Wichita. On behalf of the applicants, Jim and Sheila Fugurino, and they have a business that services water purification systems. So the business that they're proposing is one building, and the two of them run the business, and they have two employees who go out in trucks to make the service calls. So you'll probably find the traffic of their business is less than a lot of residential homes up and down the street. And this property is a unique property. It's a 1/4 mile long, 265 foot, north and south, 1/4 mile east and west. And the north 150 feet is, like Philip said, it's taken the condemnation case for Evergy electric transmission lines. So we've worked with Evergy to encroach on their easement for proposed water and sewer lines. All that. I really appreciate Philip working with us, getting some more facts after we read their recommendation for denial. And once he understood what the use is going to be, it seemed like there was maybe a way for us to make this work by staying with the general commercial. We would have gone limited commercial had that worked, but it says that that's mainly for a retail business and not a wholesale business service. So if we could go with the general commercial zoning, the protected overlay, that will suit the owners just fine. I think that'll probably listen things well. I would stand for any questions, and the agents are here if you need more information about their business. So they're happy to respond.
Any questions from the board? Could we keep it under limited commercial, but with a conditional use to be able to supplement with what y'all are trying to do?
Essentially, that's what the protective overlay is doing. You can't have a base zoning limited commercial and add a use that's higher intensity than the base zoning allows. That's why we have to approve the general commercial and restrict all the uses back down to limited commercial except for the one.
Instead of adding.
Yes.
Okay.
You can't go up with it. You can go down and leave the one.
Gotcha. Questions, comments from the board?
I've got a comment. I think in a time where it's really easy to be critical of local government and how much they spend and what they spend it on, I think that this is a really great case and a testament to why local government is still essential for us, why public servants are still essential for us, because I think that the way that planning staff has worked with the applicant and worked here to make this work, I think that that's a really strong case for why the city of Wichita excels and why we do a really wonderful job. So Philip, thank you for working with them to make this work, because I think that Wichita could be a great place where we want local businesses to thrive, but we don't want regulation to get in the way of that. So that's all.
I hear you making a motion anywhere in there?
I would make the motion that we approve the general commercial with a protective overlay. Does that sound okay, Philip, language wise?
I'll say the protective overlay will restrict uses to limited commercial except for construction, sales and service as permitted in general commercial. So if that's what you're agreeable to, that's
On that.
the proper wording.
We had a second from Molly.
Second.
All right. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Make a foundation. Drive by and watch you do it.
Thank you. Moving on to board agenda, applicants, issues and reports from Councilman Glasscock.
I'll come up here so I don't feel like I'm just like not looking at you guys. Two things. First off, this Saturday, yes, this Saturday is the district advisory breakfast. And it's going to be the budget town hall that's going to be led by the manager. So if you're interested in feedback about the upcoming budget, that's going to be one of your opportunities to do it. There should be a lot. That's one of them. And then next Friday, May 15th is going to be a White Crow cider. It's going to be a mixer with all the boards. So all of you, plus all the other 15 boards and commissions that I have. And it's going to be just an opportunity to network, get to know each other. We'll bring snacks and food. And then White Creek buy drinks if you want to buy drinks, buy pop or whatever you want, but we'll bring like snacks. It's one of my favorite places. Is you can also go there on Thursdays for trivia. So those are 2 upcoming events. District 4. The other things I made note of are just things coming up. Bulk zoning for Central Business District. We talked about that a lot here. It's finally moving forward. So 30 out of the 30 last applications for Central Business District in Delano have been approved. So the process begins now. There'll be 2 public meetings where from McLean to Vine, up and down Douglas along that strait, everything we bulk zone to Central Business District. Applicants can still opt out of that as well. So let's say you own a business there and you don't want to be in Central Business District, you can opt out and be excluded from that requirement. But that's going to move forward, and hopefully it just unlocks more opportunity in that area instead of having people to come ask us for permission sometimes. And hopefully for planning staff, it's a lot easier. They have a lot of work to do with data centers and solar projects right now. So they've been very busy on the county side. Baby Box. Same thing with Baby Box. Ascension via Christie approached the city at the same time that a church in town approached the city about trying to fund a Safe Haven Baby Box. You know what that is? It's if a mother for 0 to 60 days old is in a desperate need and wants to drop off a baby at a hospital instead of abandoning it, they're going to be able to do that in one of the firehouses. So Works Council is voting on that tomorrow. Hutchinson and Salina or Victoria have already implemented one, and both have seen babies dropped off there. So it saved a life, and they're covering the entire cost. They're donating the entire cost at $16,000 startup, and then subsequently there's like a fee every year just for maintenance of the Big Box. But I hope that's not controversial tomorrow. In addition, budget conversations, I said they're starting off 2027. We're expected to have a balanced budget. We're looking at how much we're going to capture. The manager's presenting his first budget since he's been there in June. And so it'll be interesting to see how he does his budget presentation maybe differently than Bob Layton did. And so I look forward to that conversation because it'll be my first time with that as well. As part of that, this summer, I haven't figured out what days yet, so you'll be in an email from me. I want to host 30 conversations over 30 days, and I would love for all of you to host one of those conversations at your house or a coffee shop or over drinks. Basically, we'll be asking the question, what is the future of Wichita? What things do you want to include in the budget? What things don't you want to include in the budget? And my ask would be, if you do host one of those, just invite 10 to 20 of your friends or family or neighbors over so we can have one-on-one conversations around the district. I think we've done that really well with businesses in Delano. And so I want to do it a lot better with neighbors in different parts of the community. And so I will follow up regarding more information that to that end. Southwest Neighbor Association has reformed after the passing of Josh Blick, and they are getting more involved in Southwest Neighbor Association and McCormick Neighbor Association. They have a monthly meeting at Bethany Lutheran Church. So if you live in that area, I would love to have some representation from DAB at those meetings. I think they had 15 people last time I went to it, but it was about 2.5 hours long. So it was a meeting. Delano also has a neighbor association, and then if you're part of an HOA and you want an update from the city, let me know. I'll try to get whatever city staff are out there to talk about what's happening in the city, or I can come out to talk about that as well. And then last thing, Brooke put this up here, Wichita Transit Network redesign. The city council voted to move forward the redesign of our transit facilities. That is based off of year-long conversation around what networks are happening. So as part of that, tomorrow I'll be riding the bus to get to City Hall. So I hope I get to City Hall on time. If not, we'll have conversations about timing the buses for the city council meeting. But I'm riding with Andrew, I hit Andrew's last name, Crane, in West Wichita, and then hopefully coming in as well to try to see the transit facility. And then to that end, it's not public yet. We'll see if the media is on there or not. Nope, I don't really see it. But we're going to have the launch of the transit facility at the end of May. And so that construction is almost complete, and we'll have the launch of the facility, and that's where all the buses will run out of. That's actually when we're relaunching the transit based on the new station. They're going to be going out of there to the downtown station. That's why you had a redesign to that change.
downtown station is, it's going away, right? Or
The
should-
downtown station will move to Delano.
Yeah, but are there no plans on what's gonna be going on there?
Biomed has already, KU and Wichita State have already looked at expansion opportunities. So I would imagine there'll be some conversation about maybe tying that to the Biomed campus, but there's no plan yet. What questions do you have?
What's going on at the fire station?
So we were supposed to, this is actually a good update. It's unfortunately a little bit of a delayed update, but it's a good update. We were supposed to break ground in April. We've done en bancs with the county commissioners, and they were looking at a new southwest fire station. So we had built out capacity for growth at the fire station 23 for 2 trucks, a future truck from the city. Well, the plan right now, and we're probably going to announce it pretty soon and move forward with it, is actually relocating the county firehouse as part of the city firehouse. So both will dispatch out there. And so it's part of our collaboration. How do we cover all of South Central County? And that's one of their largest areas of missing growth, especially out towards Viola, Clearwater, where they're dispatching out there. So the plan is that the county and the city will co-locate at that fire station. It will be the first of our model of consolidation of fire. There's still things happening, still be determined, but that's why it's been delayed. And so I meet with Dennis Marshall on it. He's been meeting with Tom on it from the county side. There's still things to figure out to make sure that we operate differently, as Stephanie would probably say. County and city operate differently at times, and so we want to make sure it works. But if it works, it could be a really good thing. And if it doesn't, then it'll continue to operate as a fire station. So we're looking at the design. I was hoping the groundbreak would be in April. That's what I told everybody. It's been delayed a little bit. I'm hoping by the end of May. So hopefully by next time we meet, I'll have a better update. Anything else?
I'm happy to see your push, for the Delano zoning changes, being on the board for the past few years. We've talked about it a bunch of times, so super happy to see some change coming out from here. Saw the hate you got online for some of it. Don't get it.
I think there's misunderstanding of what it was. I think some people were concerned about parking conversations and they brought that into it. Overwhelmingly, there's been a lot of positive feedback, but I think people are just negative when there's any change. But this is a change of getting government out of the way a little bit more. And I think a smart way. So there are reasons that we have zoning cases, as Gentry said before you guys today, because there is a lot of nuance to it. We want to make sure it fits the neighborhood. But when it does fit, then let's just make it a lot easier to be able to do it. Well,
What's the result of these bonds for the new schools out in the Goddard School District?
I do not have an update. In terms of if something's coming back from.
Well, you know, they keep building more duplexes out there. There's more people out there. And I don't feel we need to pay for new schools for them. They need to pay for the new schools.
I have not heard from Goddard whether they're bringing back a bond issue or not yet. To be determined still. Once there is, or if there is a bond coming back from Goddard, I will ask Dr. Henry to come and give his opinion on that as well.
Yeah.
So to be determined. And it's hard with the USD model that we have because Goddard comes so much into Mays, but it also covers Goddard and the rural parts. And so there's a weird overlap of those bond issue questions where I just got done touring a school district in Cincinnati, that Cincinnati is the boundary of their USD. Because our USD crosses municipal jurisdictions, that bond question makes it tougher on how do you, they have bonding authority over their jurisdiction. We have no bonding authority over the jurisdiction. And so it has to be a question from the Goddard School District of how they would carve out that bond. There's probably some issue of equitableness, whether you choose this neighborhood to it or another neighborhood. But we would have no jurisdiction in what they could do with their bond.
No, I understand that, but I understood you had a meeting with them and I just wondered what was.
They had not announced a bond yet. When they announce a bond, I'll have Dr. Henry come up and talk about it as well. I'll invite him to come here. So.
Because we gotta do something about taxes.
And we're tying to the community school model. When I went to Cincinnati, I went with the teachers union, some members of USD 259, and then Councilman Ballard. And they have a really neat model back in, I'll give 2 quick stories. In Cincinnati, back in 2006, Ohio had the worst rated schools in the country, and Cincinnati had the worst rated schools in Ohio. So you make the argument that Cincinnati had the worst schools in America.
They also had failed bonds for like the last 30 years prior to that. So they realized they had to change something. And they implemented what they call like a communities model. And it was partnering for-profit companies in the city or that made sense to come into the school district. So for example, one of the schools had a huge challenge with students that were facing dental challenges. Most of their parents had lost their teeth by 30. And so they brought a for-profit dental model without using education dollars, and they gave them space in the school so that students were able to be pulled out in that school to be able to go to their dentist once or twice a year instead of being pulled out of the classroom completely, missing an entire day, come back. Didn't cost the school district anything, and it actually higher test scores to get students in their space more often. Another had a FQA or FQHC and offered health clinic that was fully self-sufficient model. Others had figured out there was two schools in particular. Boiler High School, which I toured, up until 2006, they could not find an 8th grader that had ever made it to the 10th grade. That entire neighborhood. I had asked them like the statistics 6 times. I was like, I don't believe that. But it was rural Appalachia, like hillbilly elegy, J.D. Vance book, and they now had a 92% graduation rate from high school students, and it was just going to the community talking about what they wanted. Their last bond passed 70 because the citizens felt that they trusted what the money was being used for. They also had a school in Roberts that stood out to me. It's a predominantly settlement school, and parents would come in the evenings. They figured out, hey, why don't we offer classes to parents and ESL classes? So parents would come in to do ESL. The kids would be able to use the gym, be able to use it as a community center space instead of building a new community center. They also found out in that particular community, a Hispanic family walked in with a suitcase full of $80,000 in cash. And they're like, hey, I need to buy a house, because the parents had trusted coming to the school so much for resources at that point and for education. And then since 2009, they've helped 60 families buy a home. Not even, the parents had the cash, they just helped them walk through the process because the parents didn't know how to walk through the process. So long story to how do we do education better, and how does the schools and the municipality and the for-profit sector work together really well and make the schools as kind of the hub for everything in the community. That's something that we're trying to look at, and we're working with the school district and the county commission on what resources we can maybe pull into a school that hopefully in the future, one, either people feel that their bond money is being spent well and they continue to do it, or we cut down on costs and provide more efficiencies and have better student outcomes. I think both can be true. Long answer to your short question. Okay, anything else?
I would encourage you to support the MOU with the Wichita Crime Commission and the Health and Wellness Center tomorrow.
Okay, there must be an email that went out because I've gotten a lot of requests from that today to support it. The Wellness Center is Pinnacle Wellness Center. It is a collaboration again. There's a lot of collaboration happening between the county and the city, and it's provided wellness center for first responders. It's a MOU that I think it's up to $100,000 over the course of 3 years that will help with the operating expenses, but it's to provide a space for first responders to have a gym, also provide mental health counselors at the location. They're going to be using it tentatively right now as their agreement in First United Methodist Church, sold off half the building. So half the building is at 3rd and Broadway, be used as the mental health and wellness center for the city and the county. We're voting on that tomorrow too. Okay, anything else?
Can you repeat the information on May 9th town hall?
May 9th, Brooke.
Handout for that.
No closer yet, lots online, 10:30. Says living 1605 West Main Street. Budget town hall starts at 11. At 10:30, we'll have the director of libraries and Nancy Bradley, our animal control advisory board representative, share updates. We'll have donuts, and I'm working to do something a little heartier since we'll be there for a few hours.
It's all in the PM process.
10:30 and then 11 budget, but it'll start at 10:30. We'll just transition to a budget town hall. Prairie Homestead's been very nice about hosting us times. This is the first year we haven't door knocked. I just realized that. Normally we door knock all the homes at Prairie Homestead. We got yelled at 2 years. Okay, cool. Thank you all. Thanks for serving.
Good meeting.
Make a motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Aye. All opposed? Yes.
Yes.
This was more indicative of the one right here.
I don't know why you're supposed to.